Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we've got, well, a really interesting stack of sources. They take us to two spots facing intense pressure, but in completely different ways.
That's right. We're looking at the front lines in eastern Ukraine near Pokrovsk, which is pure conventional warfare pressure.
And then, simultaneously, we're diving into Lebanon, dealing with the really fragile politics of disarmament after conflict. Very different dynamics.
It really is a study in contrast. Ukraine is about survival against, frankly, overwhelming force, logistics, numbers.
Yeah.
Whereas Lebanon, that's about internal stability. A state trying to assert control and kind of bizarrely running out of the actual explosives they need to do it.
Exactly. So our mission today is to give you that shortcut, to understand the key shifts and some pretty surprising logistical problems facing people in both places.
We need to figure out, how bad is the situation for Ukraine around Pokrovsk, and what are they hitting back with? Any high-value stuff?
And for Lebanon, the big one, why is the army literally out of explosives while trying to disarm Hezbollah? What does that tell us?
And this whole dependence on outside intelligence, especially when it comes from, let's say, a complicated source. What does that mean for their future? Okay, let's dig in.
Right. Let's start in eastern Ukraine. Pokrovsk. This is arguably where things are most critical right now. Avdiivka fell back in February, right?
Yep, February this year.
And Pokrovsk immediately became this absolutely vital logistics hub for Ukraine, holding that whole eastern front together, basically.
And the Russians know it. They're definitely tightening the noose there. It's clear from the sources.
The Russian MODI, their Ministry of Defense, they're claiming advances, specifically the Second Combined Arms Army.
Right, they're talking about pushing near the train station, saying they've got a Ukrainian group surrounded. It echoes what Gerasimov was saying earlier, too.
About encirclement in Pokrovsk and Minorad next door. It's a narrative push.
Definitely a narrative push. But the pressure isn't just positioning, it's sheer numbers, overwhelming numbers.
President Zelensky actually put a number on it, didn't he? He talked about the disadvantage there.
He did. He said Russia has forces focused on Pokrovsk that Ukraine simply, quote, cannot dedicate to a single direction. The ratio he gave was stark.
What was it again?
8-to-1. 8 Russian soldiers for every Ukrainian soldier in that specific sector.
Wow, 8-to-1.
Yeah. So when you hear that, you have to ask, how are they even holding on? What are they doing just to get through the day?
Because logistics must be collapsing under that kind of pressure.
Seems like it is. Deep State, the Ukrainian monitoring group, they're reporting the city's now surrounded on 3 sides.
3 sides, leaving just what, a 15-kilometer corridor?
Just that. A tiny, really dangerous lifeline for supplies. And the human cost of this, well, it's becoming clearer.
It sounds horrific. We saw that report from Lieutenant Natalia Stoyko, Chief of Medical Services for a brigade there.
Yeah, her account was brutal. She said evacuating the wounded is, quote, almost impossible.
Why? Because the bridges are out.
Exactly. Russian artillery has just systematically taken out all the access bridges. So getting seriously injured soldiers out through that narrow gap, it's incredibly difficult, maybe fatal.
And she highlighted something key for the military side. They just don't have the capacity to fix it quickly.
Right. No engineers, not enough heavy equipment for temporary passages like pontoon bridges. They're stuck.
Which really lines up with some of the Western analysis we saw. Pasi Parawinan from the Blackbird Group in Finland.
Yes, their take was pretty blunt. They basically said Ukraine should have pulled back months ago.
Because the longer they wait,
the harder the withdrawal gets, more costly, more chaotic. They estimated the city falling is now just a matter of weeks.
It's that classic dilemma, hold a vital point versus saving your troops. Grim calculation.
And this kind of grinding pressure, it inevitably leads to escalation, drawing in those outside actors we keep talking about.
Like France. There was that report from Russian intelligence, the SVR.
Yeah, claiming France is getting ready to send a contingent. 2,000 soldiers, they said.
And the Kremlin's reaction was immediate.
Alarm bells ringing, definitely. Dmitry Peskov, the Kremlin spokesman, called it alarming. But then he went further.
He did. He basically issued a public threat, didn't he?
Pretty much. Said Russian troops keep hearing foreign languages on the radio chatter near the front lines.
And that they are actively eliminating these foreigners.
Right. It's a direct warning. Sending troops. We consider that hostile, and we will target them. That's the message.
It's a serious escalation in rhetoric. But Ukraine isn't just sitting back. Despite being hammered in the east, they're hitting back strategically.
Yeah, targeting the Russian mainland itself. Drone attacks on the Moscow region, 2 nights running.
Russian air defenses claim they shot down, 17 drones overnight?
That was the Russian claim. Said no damage in Moscow city itself, But look where they were intercepted.
Okay, where?
One was apparently heading for Moscow, 13 down over Kaluga, which borders the Moscow region, and 3 over Bryansk, near Ukraine.
So the aim isn't necessarily big explosions in Red Square, it's more about pressure, making them use resources.
Exactly. Psychological impact, forcing Russia to keep valuable air defense systems protecting the capital, maybe pulling them from the front.
And that ties into the specific things Ukraine is hitting closer to the fight, high-value targets.
Right. The GRU, Ukrainian Military Intelligence, claims some successful strikes, using their Gust Special Forces unit in Donbass.
And these weren't just random hits. They named specific systems.
Sophisticated stuff. 2 48Y6 K1 Podlet radars. Those are low-altitude radars, crucial for spotting things like drones and cruise missiles. The very things Ukraine uses a lot.
And they also claimed a launcher for an S-300V system. That's a serious piece of anti-air kit.
A very serious piece. Taking out Russian air defenses like that, the ones protecting their own forces and logistics, that's vital for Ukraine right now.
Even the GRU admitted things on the ground are, quote, somber.
Yeah, they're not sugarcoating the frontline reality. But these targeted strikes are maybe the only way they can effectively help their outnumbered troops. It's asymmetric, trying to degrade Russia's tech edge.
It's desperate but strategic. And that whole theme, reliance on external help, needing tactical ingenuity against huge odds, that actually bridges us nicely to Lebanon.
It really does. Because Lebanon's story also hinges on logistical crises and, crucially, dependence on outside players, just in a totally different context.
Yeah, we're shifting from a state trying to survive an invasion to a state trying to impose its own authority internally.
And our sources there detail this effort by the Lebanese army to disarm Hezbollah, which, just a few years ago, people would have said was completely unimaginable. Hezbollah seemed too powerful.
So what changed? What made this possible, even conceivable?
The sources point squarely at the war with Israel last year. It hit Hezbollah hard.
Not just casualties, though those were significant. Over 100 women and children died.
True, the human cost was massive, but it also took out top figures, high-ranking military guys, political leaders, even their leader Hassan Nasrallah. That created a power vacuum, a moment of weakness.
And the Lebanese government is trying to capitalize on that moment.
Exactly. Which leads us to this, almost absurd logistical problem we mentioned.
Let's just state it again, because it's wild. The Lebanese army has been finding and destroying so many Hezbollah weapons caches
that they have literally run out of the explosives needed to blow them up.
They've used up their detonation charges.
Completely. And now they're scrambling because there's this end-of-year deadline tied to the ceasefire agreement with Israel. They need to disarm Hezbollah in the south by then.
So the shortage itself is proof of, success in a weird way. They're finding more than anticipated.
It definitely suggests the scale of the hidden arsenals was huge, and the army is making real headway. But it also highlights their dependency.
Right, which brings in the U.S. Washington still designates Hezbollah as a terrorist group.
And they're keeping the pressure on for disarmament. Morgan Stagos, former Trump envoy, is apparently in Beirut right now, talking about the timetable.
And that pressure comes with aid.
It does. The U.S. is sending more supplies. There's $14 million specifically for demolition charges and equipment, plus another $192 million in general military aid.
But until that shipment arrives,
the Lebanese troops are having to just find these weapon sites, secure them, and wait. They can't destroy them immediately. It's a bottleneck caused by their own progress.
But they are still finding things, even with the pause on destruction.
Oh, yeah. In September alone, the sources say 9 new caches were found, dozens of tunnels sealed up, and they're beefing up their presence, recruiting more soldiers for the south.
Okay, so the operation continues, but this leads us straight into the politics, the tightrope walk.
A very precarious one. The ceasefire from November 2024 is clear. Only state security forces can carry weapons. That means Hezbollah has to disarm completely, at least on paper.
And the Lebanese government has a plan, a phased approach.
They adopted one on September 5th. 5 phases, starting in the south, then moving north and east, to impose a state monopoly on arms. The army says they'll handle the south by December.
But no deadline for the rest of the country.
Not specified. And Hezbollah's position is ambiguous.
They publicly agreed to the ceasefire principle.
Publicly committed, yes, but they didn't formally sign it. And crucially, they insist the state forces only rule applies only south of the Litani River.
Ah, so they're trying to limit the scope.
definitely hedging their bets.
Yeah.
And the Lebanese army gets how dangerous this is. They're being incredibly careful.
How so? What are they doing or not doing?
Well, for instance, they don't release photos of the destroyed weapons caches. They don't publicly say, these belong to Hezbollah.
Why keep it so quiet?
Fear of backlash. Ed Gabriel from the American Task Force for Lebanon pointed this out. They're terrified of triggering a new civil war.
Or even fracturing their own army again along sectarian lines like in the past.
Exactly. They have to dismantle the country's most powerful armed group without causing the state itself to collapse or the army to split. It's incredibly delicate.
And Hezbollah's reaction to this cautious approach?
It's been mixed, interestingly. They haven't tried to stop the army seizing weapon depots in the south as long as no Hezbollah personnel were present, and they haven't fired on Israel since the truce started.
So tacit acceptance, maybe?
Possibly. Nasrallah, the new leader, even called the army's approach good and balanced. But he immediately followed that with a warning. Don't confront the Shia community directly.
A velvet glove around an iron fist kind of message.
Pretty much. And behind the scenes, some Hezbollah figures are apparently hinting at deals, like maybe more disarmament progress if the government rebuilds villages destroyed in the war. Quid pro quo.
Okay, so it's complicated, but here's where it gets truly mind-bending, the intelligence aspect.
Ah, yes, the intelligence paradox. It's central to this whole story. The Lebanese army doesn't have its own solid intelligence on where all these Hezbollah weapons are hidden.
They don't, so how are they finding them?
They're relying almost entirely on intelligence provided by Israel and by a U.S.-chaired committee set up under the truce.
Wait, they depend on intelligence from Israel, Hezbollah's main enemy, to disarm Hezbollah.
Precisely. Think about the implications of that.
Yeah.
The army needs Israeli info to succeed, but Israel is hardly a neutral party here.
And is this reliance just awkward or actually dangerous?
It's demonstrably dangerous. Sources report several Lebanese soldiers have actually been wounded by Israeli fire while they were out on these inspection missions, acting on Israeli intel.
Wow. So Israel gives them intel and then fires near them when they act on it.
It seems that way sometimes. Israeli drones have reportedly dropped grenades near Lebanese and UN peacekeeping troops in the border zone.
That's actively hostile.
And it gets worse. When the Lebanese army tried to put up just a simple watchtower to monitor the border part of their job under the ceasefire, Israel objected. The tower is still empty, unoccupied. Israel effectively vetoed it.
So the Lebanese army needs Israel's help, but Israel is also physically endangering their soldiers and blocking basic security measures.
It's an incredible bind. Success depends on an entity that is simultaneously enabling and obstructing the mission.
That dynamic is just staggering. Okay, let's try to wrap this up. What does this all mean for you listening? We've seen two very different conflicts.
Yeah, Ukraine facing overwhelming force, huge logistical strains. Lebanon navigating internal fragility, a complex disarmament process.
But both stories really hammer home this theme of reliance on external players and the costs involved.
Definitely. In Ukraine, Western aid is absolutely critical for survival. It's the lifeline. But Russia points to that same aid, like potential French troops, as justification to escalate.
And in Lebanon, the army's disarmament success hinges on Israeli intelligence. But that reliance means accepting risks, having soldiers endangered, and being actively hindered by the very source of that crucial info.
Success built on a foundation of instability and dependence.
Which leaves us with a final, maybe provocative thought for you to chew on.
Considering everything we've discussed, the external intelligence sharing, the military aid dependencies, how does a state handle a critical internal security mission when the intelligence it absolutely needs to succeed comes from an outside power that acts as both ally and obstacle, sometimes at the very same time?
A really tough balance. And it underscores the messy, uncomfortable realities of conflict and geopolitics today. Thanks for joining us for the deep dive.